Attention students of Galactic Academy, please welcome our newest transfer, a human from the planet Earth. The announcement echoed through the curved hallways of the most prestigious educational institution in the Orion Arm, causing immediate chaos. Six-limbed Centaurians dropped their quantum tablets. Gelatinous globites solidified in shock. Even the normally unflappable Vaclarian triplets blinked all 12 of their eyes simultaneously. Jake Matthews, the human in question, stood awkwardly in the principal's office, wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake accepting this cultural exchange opportunity. Principal Dorn, a towering mantis-like being with impeccable posture and a shimmering exoskeleton that changed colors with his mood, currently a nervous yellow-green, cleared his throat, or whatever passed for a throat in his species. Mr. Matthews, I must emphasize again the delicacy of your situation. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Most species here evolved on Class 2 or Class 3 planets. Jake raised an eyebrow. So I've heard. Several times during orientation, and the 6-hour safety briefing, and the mandatory liability waiver signing ceremony. You must understand, Dorn continued, his exoskeleton shifting to a more authoritative blue, most students here have never encountered a Deathworlder. Your biology alone is cause for concern, your dense muscle tissue, reinforced skeletal structure, efficient respiratory system, and particularly your He paused dramatically, endurance capabilities. Jake suppressed an eye roll. I promise not to outlast anyone to death. This is precisely the inappropriate humor I'm concerned about. Dorn's color flashed alarmed orange. The fact that your species evolved on a planet with such high gravity, atmospheric toxins, extreme temperature variations, and persistent predators makes you potentially dangerous too. Look, Jake interrupted. I just want to get through the semester without causing an interstellar incident. I'll be careful. Dorn's assistant, a floating orb named Pip who communicated through holographic emojis, projected a skeptical face. Very well, Dorn relented. Your student guide should be arriving momentarily. Please remember our primary rule, no running. Ever. The cardiovascular shock alone could hospitalize half the student body. As if on cue, the office door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a slender blue-skinned being with 4 arms and large luminescent eyes. This is Calix, Principal Dorn said. One of our most adaptable Lumeri students. Hi there. Calix's voice was melodic, almost sing-song. I volunteered to show you around. We've never had a Deathworlder before, it's so exciting. Jake smiled, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. Thanks for not being terrified of me. Oh, I'm absolutely terrified, Calix replied cheerfully. All 4 hands fidgeting with an iridescent scarf. But my species processes fear as curiosity, so it works out great. As Jake followed his new guide out of the office, he caught snippets of alarmed whispers from students pressing themselves against walls to maintain maximum distance. Is it true they drink dihydrogen monoxide? I heard they sleep horizontal, like they're dead. My cousin said humans can regenerate limbs. No, that's just their epidermis, but they shed it constantly. Jake sighed. It was going to be a long semester. The cafeteria was a marvel of xenogastronomic engineering. Hundreds of different atmospheric bubbles containing species-specific food dispensers lined the walls. Jake stared at the holographic menu hovering above his designated oxygen breather section. What's a nutritional approximation disc? He asked Calix, who was busy absorbing light through specialized patches on her skin, apparently lunch for her species. Oh, that's what the AI thinks human food looks like. Calix explained. We don't get many Deathworlders, so it's guessing. Jake tapped the option and watched as a perfectly circular brown disc materialized on his tray. He sniffed it cautiously. It smells like cardboard and sadness. That's the spirit. Calix chirped. Most exchange students cry on their first day. Jake took a reluctant bite. Tastes like protein powder, wet, and broken dreams. He glanced around the cafeteria where students representing dozens of species were staring at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to horror. Why is everyone watching me eat? Most species here digest through absorption or photosynthesis. Calix explained. Your whole mechanical breakdown followed by internal chemical processing thing is considered primitive. Great, Jake muttered. I'm basically performing a freak show by having lunch. A small reptilian creature with iridescent scales slithered up to their table. Is it true you have bones inside your body? It asked without introduction. Trill, Calix admonished. You can't just ask someone about their internal support structures. Sorry, Trill's scales flushed pink with embarrassment. I'm taking xenobiology and we're studying evolutionary anomalies. That's me, Jake said dryly. Walking anomaly. Actually, the walking part is especially interesting. Trill continued, oblivious to social cues. Bipedal locomotion is incredibly inefficient, yet somehow, the conversation was interrupted by a school-wide announcement. Attention students, mandatory physical fitness assessment tomorrow. All xenotypes report to Gymnasium Alpha at third rotation. A collective groan echoed through the cafeteria, cutting across species barriers in a universal display of student solidarity. "What's the big deal?" Jake asked. Calix's luminescent eyes dimmed slightly. Coach Grack takes these assessments very seriously. He's a chronon, they value physical prowess above all else. One of the few near Deathworlders teaching here. Trill added, Class 8 planet of origin. Well, at least I won't be at a disadvantage, right? Jake said, attempting optimism. The awkward silence that followed was broken by the arrival of an imposing figure at their table, a hulking silicon-based lifeform with crystalline protrusions and glowing veins of what appeared to be magma. So the creature rumbled, voice like grinding tectonic plates, "This is the Deathworlder everyone's talking about." "Thrax," Calix whispered to Jake, captain of the 0G Gravball team. "Kind of a big deal." Jake stood and extended his hand out of habit. "Nice to meet you." Thrax stared at Jake's outstretched hand like it was a weapon. "Just remember, human, I'm the apex lifeform at this academy. Your Earth might be Class 12, but my homeworld orbits a neutron star." "Technically," Trill interjected, "Earth has a much higher biomass diversity index and nobody asked you." "Scale skin," Thrax interrupted before turning back to Jake. "See you in gym class, Deathworlder. Hope your fragile water-based composition can handle it." As Thrax stomped away, Calix's skin pulsed with concerned blue patterns. That could have gone better. Jake sighed and poked at his sad food disc. "So now I've got a bully who's literally made of rocks. Perfect." "Look on the bright side," Trill offered. "At least you'll make xenobiology class interesting. We're dissecting a Terran frog tomorrow, and you're practically a giant version of one." Jake dropped his head to the table with a thud, alarming several nearby gaseous entities who weren't familiar with the concept of self-inflicted percussive therapy. It was definitely going to be a long semester. News of the human's presence spread through the academy faster than a quantum entanglement cascade. By morning, the rumors had evolved from dangerous Deathworlder to unstoppable killing machine who breathes fire and secretes acid. Jake found evidence of this reputation shift when he entered his dormitory's common area and 3 floating gas bag entities immediately evacuated through the ceiling vents. "Don't mind the errands," Calix said, appearing with a datapad. "They think all solid beings are too dense, both physically and mentally." "Great," Jake muttered. "What's on the agenda today?" "Preparing you for gym class," Trill announced, slithering in with several holographic charts. "I've been researching human physiology all night. Fascinating stuff. Your species is basically held together by liquid electricity and stubborn optimism." Jake couldn't argue with that assessment. "According to my calculations," Trill continued, projecting a 3D model of Jake's skeletal structure, "you possess several advantages in a Class 2 gravity environment." "Like what?" Jake asked. "Well, your muscle density alone means you could potentially jump 3 times higher than on Earth. Your endurance capabilities would seem almost supernatural to most students, and your reaction time—" "Wait," Jake interrupted. "Are you saying I'm basically Superman here?" Calix tilted her head. "I don't understand that reference, but if you mean significantly stronger than most lifeforms present, then yes. That's why everyone's terrified." "Which brings us to this," Trill said, projecting an image of a massive reptilian creature with 4 arms and armored scales. "Coach Grack, Chronons evolved on a high-gravity world with toxic atmosphere. Not quite Earth level, but close. He's the only faculty member who won't be intimidated by you." Jake studied the image. "He looks intense. Chronons respect strength above all," Calix explained. "The fitness assessment is his way of establishing the natural order. Students are ranked by physical capability. It determines your status for the rest of the year." "And let me guess," Jake said. "Thrax usually ranks at the top." "Precisely," Trill nodded. "Silicon-based lifeforms have incredible density and durability." But the reptilian student's eyes gleamed with scientific excitement. "Theoretically, your adaptations could prove superior." "Great," Jake said. "So I've got the school bully gunning for me, and now you're suggesting I show him up in front of everyone. How is that helpful?" Calix's skin rippled with thoughtful purple patterns. "Perhaps you could not perform at full capacity, deliberately score in the middle range. Jake considered this. You mean sandbag it? I don't know. Their strategy session was interrupted by a notification ping. A holographic message materialized. Human subject Math.us report to medical for pre-assessment evaluation. That's strange, Calix said. Nobody else gets pre-screened. It's probably because they've never had a Deathworlder before, Trill reasoned. They need baseline data. The medical bay was a sterile white chamber filled with technology Jake couldn't begin to identify. A hovering medical drone scanned him from multiple angles. Remarkable, said a voice. A tall willowy being with translucent skin through which complex circulatory systems were visible glided into view. I am Dr. Lumi, xenophysiologist. You must be our human. That's me, Jake confirmed. The walking biohazard apparently. Dr. Lumi's internal fluids changed from blue to amused pink. Hardly, though your biology is fascinating. Your cardiovascular system alone would be considered a superpower on most worlds. So I've been told. I'm concerned about the assessment, Dr. Lumi continued. Coach Grack's tests are designed for a wide range of physiologies, but your capabilities might be disruptive. Meaning, Mr. Matthews, that some students might feel threatened if you perform too well, especially certain silicon-based students with fragile egos. Jake raised an eyebrow. You know about Thrax. The faculty is well aware of social dynamics, Dr. Lumi said diplomatically. I'm simply suggesting that sometimes greatness lies in restraint. That's what Calix said. Lumi, you're insightful, Dr. Lumi nodded. Now, let me take some baseline readings. These will help us ensure nothing unexpected occurs tomorrow. As the doctor recorded Jake's vitals, the medical bay doors slid open to reveal Coach Grack himself, even more intimidating in person than in the projection. So this is the Deathworlder, Grack rumbled, circling Jake like a predator. Smaller than I expected. Sorry to disappoint, Jake replied. Grack's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. We'll see tomorrow if Earth deserves its classification. I've added some special challenges to the assessment, just for you. After the coach left, Jake turned to Dr. Lumi. What did he mean by special challenges? The doctor's circulatory system darkened with concern. I'm afraid Coach Grack sees you as an opportunity to prove Chronon superiority. He's competitive that way. Perfect. Jake sighed. Later, back in his quarters, Jake found a message waiting from Thrax. Heard about your special assessment tomorrow, Deathworlder. Hope you're ready to show us what Class 12 planet scum can do. Everyone's betting on how quickly you'll fail. Real charmer, that one, Jake muttered. Calix and Trill arrived moments later with what appeared to be protective gear. What's all this? Jake asked. Basic precautions, Trill explained. Impact-absorbing underlayer, reinforced joints, biometric monitors. You guys realize I'm supposed to be the dangerous one, right? Calix's skin flashed with worried blue pulses. Jake, you don't understand. Thrax and his friends have been spreading rumors all day. Half the school thinks you're going to go berserk, and the other half thinks Coach Grack is setting you up to fail spectacularly. Great, Jake said, flopping onto his bed hard enough to trigger proximity alarms. So I'm either a monster or a joke. Precisely why your performance tomorrow is so important, Trill said. The correct balance could change everything. Jake stared at the ceiling. No pressure or anything. That night, as artificial darkness fell over the academy, Jake couldn't sleep. The strange sounds of alien breathing patterns and occasional bioluminescent flashes from his dormmates kept him awake. But mostly, it was the weight of tomorrow, knowing that his performance would shape not just his experience, but potentially how humans were viewed by the galactic community. Just be yourself, he whispered, an echo of his mother's advice when he'd left Earth. Unfortunately, being himself, a human from a death world, was exactly what everyone feared. Gymnasium Alpha resembled a biodome more than a traditional gym. The massive spherical chamber contained various environmental zones, low-gravity wells, high-density fluid pools, anti-gravity columns, and obstacle courses designed for dozens of different physiologies. Jake entered wearing the protective gear Calix and Trill had provided, which made him look like an awkward combination of a deep-sea diver and a medieval knight. The entire student body seemed to be present, creating a kaleidoscope of alien forms arranged in tiered observation platforms. Why is everyone here? Jake whispered to Calix. I thought this was just for our class. Oh, Jake. Calix's skin rippled with amused patterns. You're the first human at the academy. This is basically the social event of the semester. Great. No pressure at all. Coach Grack stomped to the center of the gym, his scaled body gleaming under the artificial lights. Attention! His voice boomed without need of amplification. Today's assessment will establish the physical hierarchy for this term. As always, performance will be measured relative to your species' baseline capabilities. The coach's reptilian eyes fixed on Jake. We have a special guest today. A representative from the infamous Deathworld, Earth. Let's see if humans deserve their fearsome reputation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jake noticed several faculty members had joined the audience, including Principal Dorn and Dr. Lumi. First challenge. Agility course. Coach Grack announced, gesturing toward a complex arrangement of obstacles. Adaptability is survival. Thrax shouldered past Jake. Watch and learn. Water bag. The silicon-based student performed impressively, his crystalline body flowing through the obstacles with surprising grace for something that looked like animated granite. The crowd cheered as he finished with a time that set the benchmark. Human, you're next. Coach Grack called. Jake approached the starting line, acutely aware of hundreds of alien eyes watching his every move. He remembered the conflicting advice, show restraint, but don't embarrass himself. Begin, Grack shouted. The first obstacle was a series of platforms at varying heights. Jake leaped from one to another, immediately realizing Trill had been right. In the Academy's lighter gravity, his jumps carried him nearly 3 times higher than expected. He overshot the third platform entirely, causing gasps from the audience, but managed to grab a hanging bar and swing himself back on course. Control yourself, Deathworlder. Coach Grack barked. This isn't a destruction test. Jake adjusted quickly, compensating for the gravity difference. The next section required crawling under electrified barriers that hummed ominously. Those are calibrated for exoskeletal species. Calix called out. Be careful. Too late. Jake's protective gear brushed against one of the barriers, and a shock ran through him. It wasn't painful so much as surprising, like intense static electricity. Pathetic, Thrax commented loudly. Can't even handle a basic neural deterrent. Jake gritted his teeth and pressed on. The final section was a climbing wall with tiny handholds. What would be challenging for most students proved almost trivially easy for Jake's stronger grip and greater muscle mass. He scaled it in seconds. As he crossed the finish line, the timer displayed a result that placed him just behind Thrax. Coach Grack narrowed his eyes. Interesting. Next challenge. Endurance test. This involved running on a treadmill-like device that adjusted its resistance based on the runner's capabilities. Thrax lasted an impressive 8 minutes before the machine's difficulty overcame even his silicon-based stamina. When Jake's turn came, he stepped onto the platform with trepidation. This machine reads your physiological responses and increases difficulty accordingly. Coach Grack explained. Let's see what a Deathworlder is made of. The test began gently, but quickly escalated. Jake found himself running faster and harder than he ever had on Earth. The machine kept increasing resistance, trying to find his limits. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Impossible, someone in the crowd whispered. Jake was sweating profusely now, his breathing labored, but he kept going. Earth's higher gravity and harsher conditions had evolved humans for exactly this kind of sustained effort. Enough, Coach Grack finally called after 20 minutes. Machine can't go higher without risking damage. The gymnasium had fallen completely silent. Jake stepped off the platform, trying not to look smug despite the sense of satisfaction he felt. Endurance is meaningless, Thrax muttered. A prey adaptation for running away. Coach Grack seemed troubled by Jake's performance. Strength test, he announced, gesturing toward what appeared to be a modified hydraulic press. One by one, students tested their strength against the machine. Most species at the Academy favored efficiency over brute force, resulting in modest scores. Thrax, however, impressed everyone by exerting enough pressure to bend the machine's measurement arm nearly to its maximum. Beat that, Deathworlder, he challenged as Jake approached. Jake remembered Dr. Lumi's advice about restraint. He also remembered Thrax's constant belittling and the rumors he'd spread. With a mental shrug, Jake decided to split the difference. He wouldn't go all out, but he wouldn't hold back too much either. He placed his hands on the pressure pads and pushed. The measurement arm moved steadily, approaching Thrax's mark, and then surpassing it. Jake increased his effort slightly, watching as the indicator climbed higher. The machine suddenly emitted a warning beep, and Coach Grack shouted, "Stop, that's enough." Too late. Something in the testing apparatus gave way with a sharp crack. The gymnasium erupted in chaos. He broke it. Did you see that? Not even Thrax could do that. Jake stepped back, embarrassed. Sorry about that. Coach Grack looked from Jake to the damaged equipment, his expression unreadable. Final challenge, he announced. Combat simulation. A circular arena in the center of the gym illuminated. Non-lethal combat only, the coach explained. First to yield loses. Thrax as our previous champion. You select your opponent. Thrax's crystalline eyes fixed on Jake. I choose the Deathworlder. Of course he did. Jake stepped into the arena reluctantly. I don't think this is a good idea. Scared human. Thrax taunted. No, I just don't see the point in begin. Coach Grack shouted. Thrax charged immediately, his silicon body glinting menacingly. Jake sidestepped, surprised again by how easily he moved in the lighter gravity. Stand still and fight. Thrax growled, swinging a crystalline fist. Jake dodged again. I didn't come here to fight anyone. The crowd was going wild now. The spectacle of the Deathworlder facing off against the school champion too exciting to ignore. Your species is supposed to be dangerous, Thrax said, circling Jake. Prove it. Being capable of violence isn't something to be proud of, Jake replied, continuing to evade. This only seemed to infuriate Thrax further. His next charge was reckless, allowing Jake to use the alien's momentum against him. With a move straight from his high school wrestling days, Jake redirected Thrax's force, sending him sprawling across the arena. The crowd gasped. Thrax rose, magma-like veins glowing hotter with rage. You dare? Look, we can just call this a draw, Jake offered. Instead of responding, Thrax charged again. This time Jake stood his ground, catching the silicon student's arms and holding him in place. It became a contest of pure strength. Thrax pushing forward, Jake resisting. To everyone's shock, neither gave ground. Impossible, Thrax grunted. You're just a water-filled organic. And you're just a walking rock, Jake countered, starting to get annoyed. Can we please stop this? In response, Thrax attempted a sweeping kick. Jake jumped over it, and in a moment of frustration, pushed Thrax away harder than he intended. The silicon student flew across the arena, and crashed into the boundary wall with enough force to crack both the wall and his crystalline exterior. Horrified gasps filled the gymnasium. Jake rushed over to his fallen opponent. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Get away from me. Thrax roared, struggling to his feet. Glowing cracks ran across his silicon body. Coach Grack stepped between them. Match over. Medical team to the arena. As Dr. Lumi and her assistants rushed to Thrax's side, Jake stood alone in the center of the arena, acutely aware of hundreds of alien eyes fixed on him. Now with undisguised fear, he'd just confirmed their worst suspicions about Deathworlders. The gymnasium fell into an uncomfortable silence. As Dr. Lumi examined Thrax, Jake stood awkwardly in the center of the arena, feeling like the monster everyone already thought he was. I didn't mean to hurt him, Jake said to no one in particular. Principal Dorn approached, his exoskeleton a concerned orange. This is precisely the scenario we hoped to avoid. Mr. Matthews. He challenged me. What was I supposed to do? Control yourself, Coach Grack growled. Deathworlders are supposed to have superior restraint to match their superior strength. Or so your species claims. Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the gymnasium. Red emergency lights pulsed across the walls. Attention all students and faculty, an automated voice announced. Gravitational stabilizer malfunction detected. Emergency protocols initiated. What does that mean? Jake asked as students began panicking around him. The academy maintains artificial gravity fields, Principal Dorn explained hurriedly. If they fail, he didn't need to finish. The floor suddenly seemed to drop away as gravity fluctuated wildly. Students began floating upward, some clinging desperately to fixed structures, others tumbling helplessly in the disrupted gravitational field. "Remain calm," Coach Grack roared, using his forearms to anchor himself to a support column. "Emergency systems will engage momentarily." But the situation was deteriorating rapidly. With each fluctuation, equipment broke free from its moorings, becoming dangerous projectiles in the unstable environment. A large piece of the strength testing machine tumbled through the air, narrowly missing a cluster of gaseous errand students. "The stabilizers must have been damaged during the strength test," Principal Dorn said, clinging to a handrail. "The safety protocols aren't responding." Jake, who had instinctively grabbed onto a floor anchor, looked around at the chaos. Most species at the academy were adapted to very specific gravity environments. This kind of fluctuation was not just frightening but potentially lethal for them. "Where are the manual controls?" Jake asked. Dorn pointed toward a panel on the far wall. "Engineering section, but it's too dangerous." Jake was already moving, using the fluctuating gravity to his advantage. When a wave of low gravity passed, he pushed off hard from his anchor point, propelling himself across the gymnasium. As gravity briefly intensified, he grabbed a structural beam, then pushed off again when it lightened. "What is the human doing?" someone shouted. "Being a Deathworlder," Cullix answered, her voice filled with unexpected pride. Jake reached the engineering panel, just as another gravity wave hit, slamming him against the wall with twice Earth's normal force. For most students it would have been incapacitating, but Jake had evolved on a planet that constantly tried to kill him. This was just Tuesday. "Manual override sequence," he shouted to Dorn, who was barely visible across the chaotic room. "Alpha 7 Epsilon 93, the principal called back. Then the reset protocol." Jake punched in the sequence, fighting against the shifting gravity. The panel responded sluggishly, damage indicators flashing across the screen. "The primary stabilizer is completely offline," Jake called out. "Secondary systems are trying to compensate but they're overloading." Lumi, who had managed to secure both herself and the injured Threx to a medical station, called across the room. "The secondary systems weren't designed for full load, they'll burn out within minutes." Jake scanned the engineering schematics on the display. "We need to reroute power from the non-essential systems and balance the load manually." "Impossible," Coach Grack bellowed. "That would require someone to physically access the junction room and reset the breakers in sequence." "Where is it?" Jake demanded. Principal Dorn's exoskeleton turned a pale, worried blue. "Below us, but in these conditions." Another violent gravity shift sent several pieces of equipment crashing into the walls. A support beam groaned ominously. "The structural integrity is compromised," Dr. Lumi shouted. If the main supports fail, she didn't need to finish. Everyone understood the stakes. "I'll go," Jake said. "Impossible," Coach Grack growled. "Even a chronon couldn't survive the gravity fluctuations in the maintenance tunnels. They're amplified there due to the proximity to the generators." "Good thing I'm not a chronon," Jake replied. "I'm a human from Earth, a Class 12 Deathworld, remember? This is what we're built for." Before anyone could protest further, Jake had pried open the maintenance hatch in the floor. As he prepared to enter, a crystalline hand grabbed his arm. Wait, it was Thrax, his silicon body still showing glowing fractures from their earlier confrontation. "You'll need this." He handed Jake what appeared to be a small device, personal gravity dampener. "It won't stop the fluctuations, but it might keep them from crushing your fragile organs." Jake looked at him in surprise. "Thanks. Don't thank me yet, Deathworlder. If you fail, we all die." "No pressure," Jake muttered, attaching the device to his suit. The maintenance shaft was a nightmare of wild gravity shifts and exposed machinery. Jake crawled, climbed, and at times simply fell through the narrow passages, using the fluctuations to its advantage when possible, and enduring them when necessary. The junction room, when he finally reached it, was a technological heart of chaos. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits. Display panels flashed emergency warnings in a dozen alien languages. The gravity shifted every few seconds, making it nearly impossible to maintain position. "I'm in," Jake called through his communicator. "What now?" Principal Dorn's voice came through, broken by static. "The main breaker, reset sequence, then reroute. Auxiliary power." The transmission cut out as another gravity wave hit, this one strong enough to slam Jake against the ceiling, then the floor, then the ceiling again in rapid succession. His protective gear absorbed some of the impact, but pain still lanced through his body. This was beyond what even a Deathworlder was designed to handle. But giving up wasn't an option. Hundreds of lives depended on him. Alien lives, yes, but lives nonetheless. With gritted teeth, Jake fought his way to the main control panel. The sequence was complex, requiring him to reset breakers in a specific order, while simultaneously adjusting power levels. Each movement was a battle against the shifting gravity. Twice he was thrown away from the panel, and twice he fought his way back. "Status update," came Coach Grack's voice through the failing communicator. "Almost there," Jake managed through clenched teeth. One final switch remained, but it was on the opposite wall, behind a tangle of now exposed conduits crackling with energy. A normal human might have hesitated. A normal human might have given up. But Jake Matthews was a Deathworlder, and Deathworlders didn't quit just because survival seemed impossible. With a desperate lunge, he threw himself across the room, during a momentary low-gravity phase. His hand closed around the final switch just as gravity reversed, threatening to tear him away. Holding on with every ounce of strength, Jake pulled the lever down. The effect was immediate. The wild fluctuations steadied, gravity gradually normalizing throughout the academy. Emergency systems came back online, with harmonious chimes replacing the harsh alarms. Jake lay on the floor of the junction room, battered but alive. For the first time since arriving at the Galactic Academy, he felt a surge of pride in his Deathworlder heritage. The very adaptations that made others fear him had just saved everyone. His communicator crackled to life. "Junction room, respond. Human student, do you copy?" Jake managed a weak thumbs up toward the room's security camera, too exhausted for words. The journey back through the maintenance tunnels was considerably easier with stable gravity. When Jake finally emerged into the gymnasium, he was met with an unexpected sight, the entire student body waiting in silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then, hesitantly at first, but with growing enthusiasm, they began to make sounds, chirps, hums, flashing bioluminescent patterns, telepathic waves of emotion, each species' unique way of showing appreciation. They were applauding him. Principal Dorn approached, his exoskeleton now a pleased purple. "Mr. Matthews, your actions today were extraordinary." "I just did what anyone would do," Jake said, wincing as he stood. "No," came Thrax's voice, as the Silicon student stepped forward. "What you did is what only a Deathworlder could do. I was wrong about you." Jake looked around at the faces, or equivalent sensory organs, of his fellow students. Where before he had seen fear and suspicion, now he saw something new. "Respect, perhaps, Doctor," Lumi said, scanning Jake with a medical device. "Being a Deathworlder isn't about being dangerous. Perhaps it's about being able to survive danger, and help others survive it too." As the medical team insisted on taking Jake to the infirmary, Calyx and Trill pushed through the crowd to walk alongside him. "I told you humans were fascinating," Trill said excitedly. "The way you used the fluctuating gravity patterns to your advantage was brilliant. And terrifying," Calyx added, her skin pulsing with admiring patterns. "Gloriously terrifying," Jake couldn't help but smile. "So, does this mean I passed the physical fitness assessment?" 2 weeks after the gravity incident, as it had come to be known in Academy lore, life had settled into a new normal for Jake Matthews. He walked through the curved hallways no longer faced with terrified stares and whispered rumors. Instead, he received respectful nods, curious waves, and occasionally requests to demonstrate Deathworlder abilities. Jake," a cluster of juvenile globites bounced excitedly beside him. "Can you do the thing again?" With a good-natured sigh, Jake picked up a stylus from a nearby desk and bent it slightly, just enough to impress without breaking it. The globites quivered with delight, their translucent bodies flashing with colors of excitement. "You're becoming quite the celebrity," Calyx observed as they continued toward the cafeteria. "Next thing you know, they'll be offering human studies as an elective." "Actually," Trill interjected, slithering alongside them with a datapad, "Principal Dorn is considering exactly that." "I've volunteered to help develop the curriculum," Jake groaned. "Please tell me it won't involve physical demonstrations." "Of course not," Trill assured him. "Just detailed anatomical diagrams, physiological stress tests, and perhaps a few tissue samples." "No," Jake and Calyx said simultaneously. The cafeteria had undergone its own transformation. Jake now had a dedicated Earth-compatible food synthesizer, programmed with actual human recipes. Principal Dorn had insisted on it after Jake's heroism, claiming it was the least we can do for our Deathworld ambassador. As they sat at their usual table, now considerably more crowded with curious students of various species, Thrax approached. The silicon student's crystalline body had mostly healed, though faint lines still marked where the fractures had been. "Matthews," he said with a nod that seemed to require great effort. "The xenobiology project teams are being assigned today." Jake nodded cautiously. Their relationship had evolved from antagonistic to cautiously respectful, but they weren't exactly friends. "I thought perhaps," Thrax continued stiffly, "given your unique insights into surviving hostile environments, you might consider joining my research group. We're studying adaptive evolutionary responses to extreme conditions." From Thrax, this was practically a declaration of undying friendship. "Sure," Jake said, fighting to keep a straight face. "Sounds interesting." With a satisfied nod, Thrax departed, his crystalline form catching the light in ways that suggested he was pleased despite his stoic exterior. "Did that just happen?" Jake asked once Thrax was out of earshot. The mighty Thrax requesting a Deathworlder's assistance. Calyx's skin rippled with amused patterns. "The Academy may never be the same." "Speaking of changes," Trill said, pulling up a news feed on their datapad. "Have you seen the latest from the Galactic Education Council?" The headline scrolled across the screen. "Earth officially invited to join Interstellar Academic Exchange Program. Deathworld adaptations recognized as valuable contribution to galactic knowledge." Jake stared at the news in disbelief. "Because of me? Your actions during the gravity incident provided compelling evidence that Deathworlders have much to offer," Trill explained. "The Council is considering revising the entire classification system to focus less on planetary danger levels and more on the adaptive benefits they produce." Plus, Calyx added, "Coach Grax submitted the most glowing physical assessment I've ever seen. He's apparently developing a new training program based on Deathworld principles of endurance and adaptability." Jake smiled. "So I've gone from terrifying monster to fitness guru. That's progress, I guess." "More than that," Calyx said, her voice suddenly serious. "You've changed how the entire Academy, maybe even the galaxy, views Earth and humans. That's no small thing." As if on cue, Principal Dorn's voice came over the announcement system. "Attention all students and faculty. Please join me in welcoming our second human exchange student, arriving today from Earth." The cafeteria erupted in excited chatter. Jake nearly choked on his finally edible food. "Another human," he sputtered. "Already? Your success accelerated the program considerably," Trill explained. "Principal Dorn is quite eager to establish Earth as a permanent participant in the exchange." The cafeteria doors slid open to reveal Principal Dorn's mantis-like form, accompanied by a human girl with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and an expression that suggested she was ready for anything the galaxy might throw at her. "Everyone," Principal Dorn announced, his exoskeleton, a pleased purple, "please welcome Elena Rodriguez, our second Earth representative." Jake stood up, feeling a strange mix of excitement and protective concern. He knew exactly what she was walking into. Elena spotted him immediately, not difficult when he was the only other human in a sea of aliens, and made her way toward his table. "So," she said with a grin that suggested she'd already heard stories, "you're the famous Deathworlder who broke the gym, terrified the student body and saved the Academy from gravitational collapse." "That's a pretty accurate summary," Jake admitted, extending his hand. "Jake Matthews." She shook it firmly. "Elena Rodriguez. So what's the deal here? Are they still afraid we're going to accidentally crush them or something?" "Not exactly," Jake said, glancing around at his now diverse group of friends. "They've figured out that we're dangerous mainly to things that threaten what we care about." "And what's that?" Jake gestured to the Academy around them. "Right now, this place, these people. Turns out being a Deathworlder isn't just about surviving, it's about helping others survive too." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "I can work with that." She leaned in conspiratorially. "So, between us Deathworlders, how's the food?" "Improving," Jake laughed. "But bring hot sauce. Definitely bring hot sauce." As Jake began introducing Elena to his friends, Coach Grax's voice boomed over the announcement system. "Tension, due to recent events, physical assessment protocols have been updated. All students report to Gymnasium, Alpha tomorrow, for new classification testing." A moment of silence, then special note to Earth students, "Please try not to break any more equipment. The Academy budget has limits, even for Deathworlders." The cafeteria erupted in laughter, a remarkable harmony of chittering, bubbling, humming, and dozens of other alien sounds blending with very human chuckles. Jake caught Elena's questioning look and shrugged. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy," he said with a grin, "where being from a death world finally has its advantages." As they sat surrounded by curious aliens peppering Elena with questions about Earth, Jake reflected on how quickly things had changed. From feared outsider to respected classmate in just a few weeks. Perhaps that was the greatest Deathworld adaptation of all, the ability to not just survive, but to thrive wherever they found themselves in this vast, strange universe. That, and the unbeatable party trick of bending styluses to impress globites.